Plenty to expect this evening as we get started. Linda Mnisi joining me in studio to give us some depth on an exclusive story about the story around illegal miners. Because an illegal miner has told Newzroom Afrika how flash floods came gushing into the mine shaft hours before the collapse, leading to the deaths of zamas. At least 21 bodies were recovered on the surface of Amatshe Mining Company, and there are fears that there could be more. The 26-year-old claims the mining company is aware of their activities at the shaft and that they have a working arrangement. Newzroom Afrika's Linda Mnisi joining us in studio to chat about the exclusive story. Linda, a very good evening to you. Really fascinating when it comes to scrutinizing what the relationship dynamics are in this horrific story.
Indeed, and point, you'll remember that it comes at the backdrop of us finding out that the miners could have died of drowning underground. So we went and did some digging and spoke to a couple of people in Krugersdorp, which led us to this illegal miner who gave us some details in terms of what could have possibly happened at the time, leading, of course, to the deaths of those 21 miners. Now, he claims that hours before the collapse inside that shaft, there were miners inside, and that, there was heavy rains gushing into the shaft, and that's when he realized that it was actually not safe. He left, at that time when he realized that it could collapse. Now, it's interesting given the fact that these miners were found on the surface of Amatshe Mining Company. I want us to take a listen to what he says was going on at the time before he left the mine shaft.
Ngashaye amanzi angena kakhulu lapha ngabona ukuthi nami la mangathi ngiqhubeka ngiyafosela ukusebenza la ngagcina ngivaleka phakathi saphuma sawusebenza saphela imali yethu sabuya sazigazi ngalala mangivuka ekuseni ngavuswa ngomunye umadala azonginokhela endlini athi inamba nani kufa abantu ngithi mina ngikwazi athi kunabantu abafile emgodini kusha umgodi uyawile ngathi mina nginelapho ngoba bese ngibuyile ngeza la endlini nami into leyana ngayibona kusuka kwami vele ngabona amanzi athi ngena le athi ngena khona amanzi ngagcina ngaphuma ngathi hayi awuthi ngiphuma bona basala bafosa ukungenelela ukungena besuthu bagcine wawo umgodi khona lapho wabashaya.
Linda, I suppose the relationship dynamics are one's thoughts that come to the forefront in really getting an understanding and depth on what sort of working arrangement was in place here.
You'll remember that we were told that this is an active mine, which means that the owners could have rights or permits to operate in that area. But the big question was, what were illegal miners doing in their premises? These are the premises, of course, of Amatshe Mines. And it turns out, from what the illegal miner is claiming, that they have a cordial working arrangement. And we went on to find out more and speak to the mine itself about this cordial working relationship, because the miner claims that, there are certain times where the mine would do its official operations and then makes way for the illegal miners to then start with theirs. We spoke and asked these questions to the director of Amatshe Mine, and what they're telling us, Paul, is that they found these illegal miners in that area when they started operating. In fact, they got the operating license or the operating rights in January 2021, and therefore what happens in that area is that once they're done with their official operations during the day, in the evening, the illegal miners then enter. The miners claim that the bosses know and are aware of this situation.
So then where does it leave the actual search for the rest of the bodies? I mean, it's almost like a he said, she said situation here when it comes to this working relationship.
Yeah, you'll remember that the search was called off today temporarily until, new information emerges. But you would have seen earlier today heavy rains pouring down in the area, which meant that, of course, authorities and the search and rescue teams couldn't go and search for those mine workers. But another interesting element that emerged today during, of course, our investigation into this matter was how the illegal miners are now also claiming that it is the mine bosses who retrieved those bodies from underground. saying that because there were 21, there were many, miners underground. They couldn't have brought them on the surface themselves. What they would have needed would be proper machines that would then bring them to the surface. But the mine is denying all of this, saying it is the miners themselves who brought these miners onto the surface. You'll also remember the police statements saying that the preliminary investigations are revealing that the miners, the dead miners that is, could have been moved from one place and left where they were discovered. So the miner there providing some insight maybe into what could have really happened and who could have dumped them there.
Some fascinating revelations.